So we are actually a minute away from 11, and I figured that perhaps prior to starting, I'll just quickly walk us through some of the modules that you will see on the left from your computer interface. Basically, today's session is actually powered by Showtime, and you actually see modules like Questions tab, Chat Conversations, which is publicly available to everyone who has joined today. So again, if you have questions throughout the day, don't hold them towards the back. This is pretty much going to be a relatively long session. So questions, keep them coming. As I've sort of mentioned briefly in this conversation today, we are joined by our technical experts, Lex, who is now sort of sitting in the back end, has pretty much masked his screen. So he'll probably maybe come on towards the later end of the day. But again, as I sort of mentioned, keep the questions coming as much as possible. We want this to be sort of a two-way conversation. All right. So thank you very much for joining. I think I'll get started right away. All right. So, most of us would have met at trade shows and had a really brief discussions on what Zoho is about, what we do, what we offer, and really what we stand for as a company. But in today's session, at least, what I want to do is have a more thorough discussion, more so a continuation of where we last left off, right? So, of course, thanks to all who have joined. We're going to be looking at the topic of really how you can transform your business with Zoho, which we are quite literally going to be looking at all these different applications that's going to power your back end, your front end, and not just that, right? Within organizations, within your companies, a lot of collaboration takes place. So we're also going to look at the tools that's going to help you really connect the back end and the front end side of things, right? Essentially, how do you communicate better? How do you collaborate better in real time? So today's discussion, I'm going to be using digital transformation as the basis of our discussion. Again, it's a pretty broad topic, right? We know it's not just limited to just looking at tools alone. It's also about processes. It's about how ready your workforce is in taking up and adopting new tools, right? How ready they are to use these tools. But of course, as I mentioned, I will use digital transformation as the basis of our discussion, and then sort of to give you a good idea of all our offerings and really how they're going to help power your operations, power your processes, and how we can service you, right? So this is a more thorough overview of Zoho. Now, without saying too much, I figured that the best thing to do is maybe just to share a little bit about the company. We have been really a little bit over 26 years in the industry, in the market. Very prolific. We have been growing our team size quite steadily. Obviously, if you take a look at our portfolio of product, it's a crazy amount of apps, right? 55 plus applications that we have built in-house. We have always been privately funded since day one. I think that's the major takeaway here. We have been bootstrapped, we've been private, and that itself said we do quite enjoy the autonomy of having to build our own applications and then deciding on our own roadmaps and sort of when we want to roll out these different product updates and feature updates, right? And speaking of which, we have also recently crossed the 100 million users milestone, which is an incredible feat. It's something that we are exceptionally proud of. Just want to put it out there, right? But what do we stand for as a company? I think our philosophy has always been, a company being a global company, an MNC company, but more so also having that local reach. So the long-term goal is fairly simple. It's to really have us go into these different regions, these different countries to help businesses transform their way of work, right? And to adapt, to improve their experience with technology and also to future-proof their work. It's really that simple. And we know and we believe that in the process of doing so, of transforming business, it should never ever compromise your data security, your data privacy, because your business data are extremely important. With that being said, of course, Zoho do run on Zoho, meaning to say we use our own tools, right? So any tools that we sort of roll out in the market, we battle test it first. We sort of use it first. Any sort of shortcomings, we patch it up and then we push it right out in the market where it's open for subscription, right? So that being said, of course, by and large, this is how things looks like. 55 plus applications and more, of course. Users do get a little bit astonished with the amount of, apps that we are rolling out pretty much every quarter, every year. Obviously, we have been pioneers of CRM and a word processor tool called Zoho Writer. These are, by the way, two of the most sophisticated tools under our portfolio right now. Obviously, as you can tell, we kept growing and kept growing. And, from day one, really, why we start building so many different tools is we want to put out all this offering out there so that, you are able to sort of scale your usage of technology as you scale your business as well, right? These two has to sort of scale in tandem. And the idea of these offerings is that they have to be integrable since day one, right? They have to be interoperable. So your business data has to be sort of be available across all these different channels as you integrate them all together, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So, of course, the general reaction that people tend to have when they hear about us is that, oh, you guys are crazy, right? It's either wow or you guys are crazy. But that didn't really bother us because we always believe that there's a method behind such a madness. And when we talk about madness, obviously, it's that many products. So there's a way to really go about this. Now, let's take a look at the typical business, sort of take a look at how things looks like, right? Let's look at marketing right now. So, of course, let's put it this way. Every business needs marketing. Every business needs marketing, right? And to really legitimize your business, you probably need to be able to purchase a domain or from maybe GoDaddy, Vodian, whatever, or maybe DreamHost. You have to purchase a domain of your choice. You have to set up a website where you're able to sort of list your products and your services, and not just that, but also build engaging, beautiful content. With that being said, we do have one offering called Zoho Sites. This is a low-code, no-code builder. Everything here, as you can sort of tell, is based off drag and drop, right? So minimal coding involved. And you get to build all these beautiful content. They are highly interactive. And it's not just that, right? When we take a look at website experiences, when people tend to go to a website for more information digging, you obviously also have to know the foothold. You have to know your web traffics. In this sense, you now need to leverage on your website data and traffic to improve your web experience. And with that, we have another tool called Zoho Page Sense. Pretty much what we are looking at here is a tool that is a CRO tool. It's a conversion rate optimization tool. Obviously, these little blotches that you see from these given examples are actually what we call heat maps. And it really gives you an example or an idea of, the website behavior that your visitors tend to have on your website, obviously. And you can use such information to actually optimize your conversion rate. So again, what are the call to action buttons that tend to be clicked the most? What are areas that visitors or web visitors tend to interact with the most? And you can sort of lay such feature onto your website. Now, speaking about enhancing our web experience, live chatbots are great, right? These days, any given website that we tend to go to, we are greeted with a chatbot agent. And we do have solutions for that as well. It's called Zoho Sales IQ. Obviously, this is a live chat agent that sort of provides it, that 24/7 presence. So any visitors that comes on is able to interact with it, on the operator's behalf. And this works exceptionally well, especially if you are a company, if you are a brand or a business that, has presence across all these different geographies where time zone is a factor. You want that 24/7 support. And again, obviously, while the visitors is interacting with the bot, again, once that's taken over by the human operator, this is how things looks like, where agent actually get a general idea of really what the prospect or the customer or the website visitor is actually looking out for, right, through such conversations. So you get to see all the historical conversations that are being ported over during the interaction with the chatbot. You can look into further details. There's further breakdown here, such as whether this visitor is actually a new visitor, someone who is a recurring visitor, And I think what's most important in such a sales environment is that your people, your staff have the right context. They have the right prerequisite information to anticipate what's the next step to take to move things to the next stage, right? Whether it's in the form of a sales process or whether it's in the form of a customer support case, right? If visitors do come by and chat up the bot, and that happens to be a customer support case, you can actually push that right into Zoho Desk, which is a ticketing tool. Now, of course, in any case where you identify that as a prospect, you can also sort of flush that prospect right into the CRM, and the integration pattern here is fairly simple. You can see the breakdown of conversation. With that being said, you can add this as a contact right into the CRM. So Marketing, how can we forget about social media? Obviously, social media is big these days, right? If you're kind of lacking your social media strategy, it's probably time to pick things up and roll with it, right? So we have a social media management tool here. Essentially, this allows us to integrate with the various channels such as Meta, which was formerly known as Facebook, perhaps X. Now it's called X, right? Previously it was known as Twitter, and LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube, Google My Business. So essentially many different channels that we can integrate this with and manage all these different channels where we push out all these captions and social media posts, and we get to evaluate really the interactions that people tend to have with the posts. That gives us a really good granular view of your entire social media strategy, pretty much like a social media performance, if you will, right? And it's not just that, because visitors tend to also interact with not just posts through forms of likes or through forms like of resharing. It's also very much about sending you a chat through your messenger too, for example on Meta, right? And your marketing team will sort of be able to access all these different conversations within Zoho Social's messenger module here. It's basically unified all these different conversations, and from there on you'll be able to sort of qualify and evaluate and sort of see if this is actually a potential prospect or if this is a customer who's looking to make a complaint, and you can pretty much push them to the respective different sales and support tool accordingly, right? So going further, of course, as brands, as businesses, a lot of times we have to run communication work with prospects, with existing customers. Again, right? Sometimes you got cross-selling, upselling opportunities. You want to communicate that as well. You've got that in Zoho Campaigns. Now, this is a tool that's going to be able to help you push out some of the EDMs with marketing, with campaigns. It's highly integrable with CRM as well, which is going to be really helpful when it comes to pulling up templates and customizing content for a more personalized customer experience, and then sort of sending it to a specific group of customers. Again, as mentioned, right? Every Zoho tool comes with an in-app reporting. So obviously, at the end of the day, as you sort of push all these campaigns out, you'll be able to see at the end of the day how this campaign perform in terms of open rates, close rates, deliverables, deliverability, right? Things like that, which are very important statistics that you want to get a hold of to understand how well your campaign is faring. And to expedite things a little bit more, of course, there are multiple different tools to help us with running events, with automation. We briefly spoke about campaigns earlier on. We do get to automate that as well, especially if you're looking to build a more specific customer journey across various channels, like your emails, like your website. You want to deliver personalized content. What you want to do is to go ahead and set up automation here, right, in the form of like a drip marketing campaign. So, for example, if a customer interacts with that email, if he or she would have opened it, maybe you want to tag a certain scoring to that, or maybe if a certain call to action or maybe a certain form is filled up, you want to tag another layer of scoring to that, and this is actually accumulative, and that will actually land that customer in perhaps a certain bucket or certain bracket, and that will give you a good idea of whether that customer, you should prime him or her for upsell or cross-sell opportunity. But there are really multiple different things that you can do here. Basically, you can pull up a work chart, right? You can put out the flow and get that automation going. Backstage here, we pretty much use this to plan and run, live and online events. If ever you're looking at creating a platforms to host your user conferences, your seminar, this is probably the tool you want to use. All right. So as you can sort of tell, marketing has quite a broad suite of different tools, that we've put out there to the public. And of course, in any case where you have already run some successful marketing, you've got some decent volumes of leads. Now we need to look at sales, right? We need to look at how smooth things are on the sales side of things. In that, we've got the CRM, which, by the way, a little bit of a plug-in here. We do have a PSG grant at 50% SME Go Digital. So grants are available. So we do help some of our SME customers when it comes to onboarding our CRM itself. So besides the plugin, come back to CRM, right? So this is, again, sort of one of our flagship products, as I basically spoke about earlier in the presentation. This CRM really is very much like a sales repository. It sort of gives you an understanding of really what your customer purchased in the past, why, from whom they purchased from, what did they purchase. Especially prospect-wise, you're going to be really able to have a good idea of probability of conversion through some form of lead scorings or some automation where you can apply some form of tag to that record. So it gives a sales agent some good understanding on just how they can anticipate the next sales step, the next sales pipeline, and they can carry on from there. Obviously, it also promotes and fosters some form of collaboration across your sales team, right? Manager actually cuts down time having to hunt for information, right? Everything is sort of kept within the CRM here. I think what's really beautiful about a CRM in your organization is you have all the historical data that's going on. Sometimes you want to revisit that record and refresh, your understanding of that customer. You get all this historical data going on, and pretty much you are also kind of feeding real-time data as well. So with a combination of such tool, you better be able to know, you'll be able to better know how to approach that customers better. All right. And of course, besides the CRM tool, there are also micro activities that has to be performed as well. And there are tools that we offer, like booking tools, e-signature tools like such, where it allows you to curate your e-documents and send it for e-signing, which is completely digital, right? In Singapore's case, of course, we have integrated with SingPass, which is a very strong integration where you get to authenticate your e-signing process. So everything here becomes really very much legitimate. It's very secure. We are sort of powered this using blockchain technology as well. And after signing, you do get two sets of documentations, right? One set is the black and white, which is a certificate for completion. Another one will be this completed signed document itself. But beyond that, also, when the document gets signed, you actually get to track the entire process of the online signing, whether it has been mailed, it's been opened, it's been viewed, it's been signed and reverted upon, right? These are generally intel that you get during your e-signature process. And we do have tools for support as well. As your customer base starts growing, right? Obviously, you need to service your customers, you need to retain them. We've got a ticketing tool called Zoho, and it really caters to a lot of our omni-channel aspect of things. Where we are essentially taking one conversation from one channel and building it up in another. Essentially, what we are trying to achieve here is relaying contextual information so that your support agent is able to make more informed decision makings of whether this customer comes through our social media channel or whether it's coming through emails. What are different channels that they have interacted with, and what can he do with the set of information, right? So obviously, he will be able to better prioritize urgent tickets and minimize wait time for customers. In this sense, he knows who to feed this ticket to as well, right? He gets a little bit more context, he'll be able to cut off wait time. So as I sort of mentioned earlier on, it's having that well-rounded, all-rounded information. You want to probably send this to your most qualified subject matter experts to help with the ticket, to reduce your response time. So all you have to do is basically some form of tagging here. Now, to make things a little bit more efficient, we do have Zoho that's being powered also by Zia, which is an intelligent AI assistant by Zoho. We've got our AI tool as well, and we generally don't offer this as a standalone service, right? Zia itself here is built into a majority of our different products. It's built into CRM, it's built into our HR tool, it's built into a ticketing tool in this instance. And the idea is if ticket does comes in, Zia will actually intercept the ticket. It will actually break down the context of these tickets through some form of NLP and run suggested response based on all this information that sits in your current knowledge base, that sits in your repository and your library. And then Zia will be able to sort of map that responses to that inquiry, right? And then you as a support agent will either be able to copy that content right in, or maybe use that content to improve the quality of your existing content and then send it forward as a response. So this way, you see a lot of improved quality in terms of your responses. You see a lot of improvement in terms of the consistency as well when it comes to reply ticket timing, right? Obviously, we don't stop at just a ticketing tool like Zoho. There's the various customer support tools as well, employee support tools as well. We've got one in Zoho Assist, and basically we use this to assist online software problems where the support guy is actually able to take over the machine of the person being supported, right? And then troubleshoot on their behalf while they are monitoring the entire process itself. Again, if you kind of spot something amiss, you'll be able to terminate that session, and it gives you a degree of authority or a degree of power over when you want to terminate this information, and to make sure that you're supervising the entire process as that troubleshoot takes place, right? So we try to make this as legitimate and as safe as possible. We have also got a tool called Zoho Lens, which basically leverages on the idea of augmented reality technology. So you will be able to sort of reflect what's on the ground to someone sitting in the HQ or sitting in the office. That person will actually be able to annotate on the screen as well, and to send specific directions and instructions on the steps that you have to take to troubleshoot what's on the ground, right? You can put step 1 is step 2 is this, step 3 is this, so on and forth. So some degree of collaboration actually happens, right? And you are able to actually accurately project what you're seeing on the ground to, those guys who are supporting you backend, right? So we've talked quite a fair bit about all these different standalone tools. Of course, if we look a layer up, we do offer all these tools. When we club them together, we offer them in bundles. And you've got highly functional suites like CRM Plus, right? And the idea is you get a more holistic experience. Your customer-facing agent or customer-facing teams is actually able to produce better overall overall better experience for your customers, right? In terms of getting them to sign some stuff, in terms of supporting them, etc., as we would have covered in the earlier examples. Now let's move on to apps for finance. We've got bookkeeping tools as well, where we are able to actually track our receivables and payables. Essentially, when we talk about receivables, we're looking at things like, perhaps outstanding invoices for your business that your business has, or money that your customer owes you, right? In terms of payable, obviously the money that you owe to others, you probably don't want to keep that too long unpaid, right? Because you have a reputation to maintain as a business as well. And again, if you have proper structure, if you have proper procedures and processes, you can pretty much eliminate all those headaches and problems, right? With that being said, you also need to be able to receive the money, right? Besides being able to produce great customer experience, you need to be able to get paid at the end of the day by issuing invoices and facilitating checkouts. There are e-invoice tools as well available. Now you can personalize all these different invoices for your customers based on their information and bill them accordingly. Obviously, you do get to customize this invoice by pulling in this information from the CRM, or basically just merging all this information that sits in Zoho Books as well. So a little bit more about invoice, right? Again, if you're running billable projects with billable hours, you are able to actually integrate the tool and actually curate the invoice based on that. So more tools. Again, before I go to expense and inventory, we have sort of clubbed Zoho Invoice, Checkout, and Subscription right now. And really going in the future, we have launched Zoho Billing. So you have these different 3 tools clubbed into one right now to really simplify things. Again, as I sort of mentioned, it's to make sure that you get access to one tool, but you're really getting more access to more features here. So let's talk about inventory, right? You want to be able to take into account your stock level. Inventory tool is actually available for us here, where it tells us the different stock location. It tells us whether you're running low in terms of stock, and you can even set push notifications and reminder where it actually reminds you at certain period of time where you have to come back and restock. You can get the AI to do that job for you as well, but you need to have enough data in the database, of course, right? In that, we also have a subscription tool. With that, we have a subscription billing software, right? So in Zoho Subscription, and essentially we use these to really build, your end-to-end cycles. You get to automate recurring billing. You get to manage your subscription. You get to send professional, tax compliant invoices. And I think more importantly is to get paid on time, right? You want to be able to get paid on time. That's the most important thing for a business. Expense tool is something that I use a lot. Especially since I travel a lot across APAC region, right? On work trips, we use these to expense receipt. If you're going for travel, you probably want to have a really strong SOP, a strong protocol, right? Where you raise a travel request, it goes through a certain degree of approval And once it's approved by the right manager, only then can you book your trip, right? It makes things a bit more stringent. So by that being said, of course, as you're traveling, when you're on the ground, you receive these receipts as you're expensing thing. You'll be able to sort of scan this receipt into reports as well for submission. So it really streamlines that entire process for you. Now, more functions to this. I guess that's always a conversation for another day, since we're only talking about overview today, right? And again, as I sort of mentioned, you look a layer up. We have bundled this into another functional suite called Finance Plus. So we've got the Customer Experience Suite, right, called CRM Plus, and now we've got a Finance Plus suite. We've got HR Plus as well, which you'll see right now. So, of course, with some money coming in, it's time to hire, right? And we've got an application tracking tool called Zoho Recruit, and essentially, really, what you get from this is you get to connect with all these different job mediums and job portals like Monster, Indeed.com, right, CareerJet, where you actually get to push out your job opening. You get to list it, candidate gets to see it, they apply and send in their resume. Not just that, but Recruits allows you to get a good idea on generally what a typical source that candidate tends to come in from. Right? What are the popular sources? Was it LinkedIn? Was it Indeed? Right, etc. And you'll be able to streamline, qualify, and nurture your candidates from there on to finally successfully onboard them. Obviously, more things that you can do with Recruit is that you get to create and send and run assessment online, right? If you ever need to evaluate, people through some form of virtual or video interview, you can create assessment where you can evaluate them a little bit more accurately, right? You can take a deadline to your video assessment. I think more importantly is for us to also track candidate activities and history with interviews and offer letters. When we send the offer letters, has it been viewed? Has it been opened? Has it been signed and accepted? These are things that we generally want to have more visibility of, right? So Recruit here is really just a tool that allows us, especially recruitment manager and hiring manager, to collaborate with one another more tightly. Now, speaking about more tightly, Recruit can also be integrated with a HRIS tool called Zoho People, where you use this to pretty much track attendance, track leave, track your employees' information. What we're seeing here is that we've triggered some degree of custom onboarding flow. So there's a specific process that we put these newly onboarded employees through, where it ease them into the process of learning about your company, learning about all these different resources that he or she have to get, a little bit familiarized with, right? What are the syllabus, what are the training that they have to go under, what are their key results area, and things like this. So again, these are generally things that can be achieved with Zoho People. And of course, with a little bit more customization, you'll be able to achieve more things like, better feedbacks, skill set matrices, competency, right? And drafting their KRA, the key results area, and making sure that they hit them, right? Doing reviews and all that sort of HR stuff. When we talk about learning earlier on, when we talk about training, we've got a separate tool called Zoho Learn, but because Zoho Learn is also built into Zoho People, a little bit of those elements sits in People. And when your employees on board, they will be able to get trained with all these different syllabus and modules. You'll be able to tag certifications as well. When they get trained, when they finally pass out from that course or module, they are actually able to go ahead and perform their on-the-job training, or their on-the-job pretty much their task that they have to deliver for their main role within your organization. So as I mentioned, People Plus is also available. So they're available in a la carte, as I have already emphasized on multiple times. They are available in a la carte format. They are also available in functional suites format. There are IT apps as well. Creator. Some businesses have more unique needs. You'll be able to build more unique applications where you deploy them and you get to actually manage them, right? By talking about unique applications, we are looking at things like maybe order management, maybe restaurant management app, maybe hotel management app. These are apps that, generally you don't get off the shelf, right? But you have a more niche and specific need. You'll be able to use Creator to build that for you. You get to roll that out. You get to get your employees to use it, and you'll be able to manage some degree of reporting and insights from there on, like any other Zoho tool, of course. So This is especially important for IT teams and data analysts that sits within the organization. Analytics is important as well. I've spent pretty much like 30 minutes, briefly going through all these different Zoho apps that we already have. And at the end of the day, what are the insights that we're getting from that? What are we getting from that? What are the information, right? At the end of the day, we need to be able to sort of look into this data, make sense of it, and make better decision. Of course, it has to storytell, right? So with analytics itself, you'll be able to identify all these different data sources and sort of pull them in. These integrations are easy to set up. We have available connectors within the app already. So it's maybe a couple click process to get it set up. And we've engineered this to seamlessly work with data pipeline services provider, like things like Zapier, Data Channel, and much more. So it's fairly easy to set up. A little bit of example here is when you see us integrating analytics with Zoho projects, we essentially sort of want to know what's happening on the project management front, right? Where we're blending data here, we're able to see the number of open tasks versus the completed ones, what the time generally taken to complete a specific task, etc. And more examples, obviously, this time around is integrated with inventory. You'll be able to sort of analyze your sales and your order place. What are some of the invoices raised? What's your best or your least selling products here? You primarily also want to understand your customer's preference and plan your inventory accordingly. So analytics is used to give you a better story, to give you a better idea, to draw some insights on some of the important areas to cover for your business, and then make the right decision. So more examples, of course, right? We're not going to dive too deep into the details. And finally, we're going to talk about applications that we use on a day-to-day basis. Meeting tools, call tools, messenger tools, email tools are actually available as well. We have a service called Zoho Mail. Click here is basically a team messenger tool where you get to connect with your colleague one-to-one. Again, if you have organization announcements and informations that you want to pass down, you can pretty much create channels from there on and blast down this information where you have that single source of truth, and everyone knows that the CEO has made this statement. There's something to actually look back on. So Click Channel here allows us to run that sort of real-time conversations. You make calls, you can do screen sharings, you can do training, right, and all that sort of great stuff. Zoom meetings is where we actually host larger meetings. I think right now we can actually accommodate up to 5,000 participants at a go. And with collaboration tool, we briefly share a little bit about Zoho projects, and we essentially use these to plan and complete projects on time, where you are able to take a look at Gantt charts like such and know, the timeline, whether you're falling short or whether you're ahead. You'll be able to do time tracking as well. You'll be able to build projects for billable hours, right? If there's a certain man hours that you have to take note of, those are the things that you'll be able to do within Zoho projects. We've got Sprint, which is more geared towards agile methodology. So it's really a prolific, productivity suite that we are looking at here. And Connect here, it's a social intranet tool where you basically blast out announcements. You can create interest group. You can create, very specific group. Again, if you have maybe a CRM team, right? Probably you want to put every member from the CRM team under one group where they're able to discuss more CRM-related marketing or some product management sort of details, right? You get to follow posts, you get to reshare them and like them. It's pretty much like a Facebook version for corporate, right? But it's more, organization-centric, where you run more business or company-centric conversation. File storages are available as well. You find that a lot of these tools are actually layered in one another. We've got one in Zoho Work Drive where we are able to host all these different documents, these different formats of documents. Obviously, a presentation, deck builder, word processor tool, a spreadsheet, right? These are things that you can basically park under Work Drive and to get it organized. I think what's most important is not just organizing them, but also running tighter collaboration, right? Who is getting access to certain workspaces, who's getting access to certain documents. Those are important things to also take care of, right? Governance. So looking up, we have a workplace suite as well. This is also some form of, subsidy has also been granted for workplace on SME, Go Digital, IMDA as well. And as the slogan, the tagline goes here, it's to really transform how your company create, communicate, and then manage the different documents across the organization. And they are also integrable, right? Let it not be mistaken. For example, you can also integrate Zoho Mail and CRM. CRM and Zoho Click is also integrable as well, where you can flush certain important sales conversation into Zoho Click from the CRM interface. I guess that's a conversation for another week. So there are multiple different use cases that we can get out of this. And I think that just this session alone is not enough, right, to do it justice. So there are, of course, tons of apps that we have, the different pillars. There are mobile apps too. But again, if we sort of categorize them accordingly, we spoke about three aspects, really. Front office, back office, what's in the middle, which is productivity and collaboration. But we never really quite like to see it as silos. And what we think is most important for businesses actually is a mega suite of product where you have everything from day one, right? We're talking about an operating system for business. Obviously, all these different tools that we've talked about, a CRM, a productivity tool like a messenger tool or meetings tool, all right, a ticketing tool, etc., HR tools. These are tools that can be purchased from multiple different vendors as well. But I think one of the cons of that is obviously you have to deal with multiple different vendors because you have to deal with multiple different invoices. Sometimes you get caught by surprise, right? They have different renewal cycles. Their product updates comes at different timing. They have different timelines. And I think really what's the biggest pain of all is they are not exactly very integrable. So some of these apps and tools don't really quite work that well with one another. So you put yourself in this, integration spaghetti where you have to look for different apps to integrate with. You have to deal with a ton of API, middleware, etc., etc. So the solution at Zoho, of course, is we provide everything from day one, right? All these apps, as I have already emphasized before, they are integrable. We have an offering called Zoho One. This is the mother of all suite, right? It's basically one unified suite to help you run your entire business. And the idea is we give you all these different tools from day one. And we made it a self-discovery process. Again, if you remember what we briefly discussed about earlier on, we talk about scaling your technology with your business. Again, maybe there are different tools that you use in different stages of your business. You want to be able to enable them at different points of time. So under Zoho One, you'll be able to do that because we have 55 plus offering made available to you since day one. They're obviously highly functional. It's a single admin console. The reason we call it one is because it's really one account to manage all these different tools, to manage this different provisioning that you give to different users. I have conversations with some of the customers before, and they say that for anyone leaving the organization, you want to have very stringent process of managing their access to certain business data and certain applications, right? To avoid and to deter corporate espionage, right? That's the worst case scenario. But obviously, things like this can potentially happen. So obviously, you want to exercise some degree and layer of security. It's one invoicing. You're dealing with one support team as well, with one account management. So think about it, right? It's really just one tool where you get access to all these different applications. More importantly, I think what's really the pricing? It's actually very, very reasonably priced at $40 per employee per month. And to give you an idea of how it sort of looks like, how the console looks like, how you're going to manage all these different tools from the console itself, I'll show you a couple of screenshots. So today we've spoke about apps, we've spoke about suites, we've finally talked about operating system, which is the highest level of all. This is generally how things looks like, right? So you get to see the PNAPs on the left-hand panel. So essentially by going to that, you get to access all these different tools from the same interface. Meaning to say you don't have to create multiple different web tabs that you have to manage. It's a lot of headaches. It's a lot of context switching. If you are sort of multitasking, you have many different tasks to sort of look at, right? that's only going to confuse you. It's not going to help your case. So you can basically access all these different tools from what's on the left, but we also have something we call unified dashboard. So again, if you are using multiple different Zoho tools as well, you'll be able to do some degree of reporting and consolidate all of those in one dashboard, where upon checking in, it gives you really good granular view of all that's happening across your business. What's happening on the finance side of things, what's happening on your campaign side of things, what's happening on your website side of things, who are the people coming to your website, etc. Okay, a little bit more examples on customizable dashboards. We're not expecting you to build these using coding and anything of that sort. All these, again, it's simple user interface, simple user experiences. You're pulling in all these different widgets that are already pre-built and available in the dashboard. So you're pulling all these different information into the Canva itself. And from there on, you'll be able to exercise some degree of surveillance or some degree of supervision on all these activities that's taken place. As I mentioned, 55 plus pre-built widgets, more to come, right? They're not just categorized under collaboration and productivity. We have sales, we have marketing, we've got HR, we've got finance, we've got operations, many different stuff. And Zia is also layered into Zoho One here. And the idea is really incorporating AI into our business analytics side of things to really help improve the experience of driving a more accurate data on demand, of being able to build report instead of building report from scratch, right? I think what's most important is to actually converse with the AI here, and through some natural language, AI is able to sort of understand your requirements and then build dashboards based on that, build charts based on that. It really simplifies that process of you having to build reports and then translating it to dashboard. So AI does all of this for us. Okay, there's also a unified search functions. Obviously, if you're using maybe, let's say, 20 plus applications across the 55 plus, obviously, you will be able to make more unified search based on that as well. Say, for example, you're trying to find an email by the vice president of sales. It's going to comb through all these different tools that you've used, but I think more importantly, within the parameters of your email. So with Zoho One, there's obviously more to come. Everything at Zoho is very much subscription-based, right? Again, we're here to take questions. We're here to take, more. If you have, questions on really Zoho One itself, you have questions on all the standalone tools. There's so much to talk about, right? And we've barely covered, everything. We're sort of just scratching the surface. So I've pretty much come to the end of today's discussion. It's all right. Thank you very much.